On today's video, we're going to be looking at why does most retail forex traders lose money. Before we get into the charts, once again, it's very important to understand that this is a lesson I learned back in the day. A trend is your friend. As most people try and turn the market around, it is psychology based, because if you get into a bad situation, what do? You try and turn it around. So that's what they always say, that the market is 90% psychology. So unfortunately in the forex market, we can't try and turn the market around, as it will end up in losses most of the times. So let me show you guys on these two charts that we're going to be doing tonight how most traders will lose and try and turn around the market, rather than for waiting for the shift of momentum from the banks and execute on what the banks are giving us.
Okay, so let's firstly look at the trends. So we need to understand trends before trying to actually use trends within our strategy. So the key thing to trends is understanding timeframes. I think timeframes and trends is the two biggest thing that people don't actually understand, because it takes a lot of effort to understand it actually. So I'm going to start with the first thing, and then I'm going to take you guys into actually how to identify the trend. So when I started off as a trader back in the beginning, I didn't understand trends. I didn't see it as easy as I do today. So what we actually did is we identified the trend on all time frames. We had a whiteboard and we'll write down EURGBP weekly selling, daily buying. So we already knew that this week for EURGBP, we're only looking for buys. And that changed my profitability so much. So it is a really good thing for especially new traders to do as well. So the key is bigger and smaller trends. We need to understand that there can be a weekly uptrend, but there can also be a daily downtrend. That's why it's so important to identify the multiple trends and obviously understand what time frame suits you, but first of all, understanding what is the bigger time frame doing. So how we identify trends is, if a price is trending up, we go and we create what's called a higher high. Market comes down, creates a higher low. Market then creates another higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. So that is a buying trend. Okay, so every time, as long as price stays above what's called the higher low, we are in a buying trend. High, low, high, low, high, low. So as long as we stay above that point, we are in a buying trend. What happens if price closes below the higher low? Do we start selling now? We need two indications for price to start selling. That's the first indication. The second indication will now be a lower high, which usually leads to something like a head and shoulders pattern on the higher time frames, or a double top, or something in that range. So for us, if we go and we close above that higher high, that will be seen as a false breakout. But if we close below that area, then that will be seen as what's called a lower high. So then we have a lower low, and we have a lower high. Two indications that will indicate a shift of momentum, and then we know price will start selling, and all we will do on the daily is sell. Okay, but the key thing is the weekly will have a higher low point, most probably at this level. So we can actually sell on the daily, but once we reach the weekly level, we need to understand that this is where we actually went into the buying trend. And that was our last lower high or high low on the weekly trend. So if we don't close below this area, then we know, okay, perfect. That was a pullback on the weekly. And now we're jumping back into the bigger trends, and we're going for the new higher high on the weekly trend. Okay, so let's get into how you actually identify the trend on the real market.
Last week on Supply Sunday, we had CHFJPY played out perfectly. We had a nice drop to the downside. So let's see what pair we will be analyzing today. Once again, for everyone that is new, we do spin this wheel. Whatever it lands on, we analyze it, so we keep it simple. There is some giveaways in between as well. So we're going to be doing CHFJPY for the second time. Last week it played out, all the correlative pairs played out as well. So let's get into the charts and let's see what we do see happening this week on CHFJPY.
Okay, everyone. So first of all, starting with CHFJPY. Last week we called a nice pullback on CHFJPY. This week we landed on it again. So now, once again, most retail traders will do what? End up selling. Okay, because now we sold there last week, so why aren't we selling again? But it's so important to understand what happened last week so we can actually take it through to this week as well. So first of all, we want to start on the daily time frame. Okay. The key to everything is trends. Okay. Like I just showed you guys in the previous part of this video, how the trend works. So we can see on the smaller time frames, we had a little bit of a shift of momentum. We had a break of structure, like I explained, and we had a lower high, low low, low high, low, etc. Okay, so on the daily, which is obviously our key to what's going to be happening going forward, we had this perfect spinning bottoms, hammer candles, pin bar candles, just as you want to call it. So that's a really strong indication for buy continuation. So we can see all the confidence pointed towards that point, 61 FIB, 1558, 500 psychological level, everything. So where most retail traders will once again make the mistake now is trying to sell over there. Are we trying to sell? No. Why? Because the trend is pointing up. So last week I said, yes, we can look for the pullback trade, but the better trade will be the trend trade. So what you would actually have been looking for is for the buy position over there. So now let's quickly jump to the lower time frames and even a little bit lower as well. Okay. So as long as price is above this area on the higher time frames, we are buying. Okay. We've also had a shift of momentum. So now we can see going into Monday, even on the smaller time frames, we've had that high, 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 low. Now a high, high. So for us, as long as price stays above this point on the lower time frames, we are in a buying trend. Okay, so now we can also add our FIB. We've already had a pullback on our hands. We can identify buying pressure over there, price buys from there, price buys from there. We see the 61% FIB is a little bit lower. We can also see the 160 psychological level is over there. So in this instance, we will be using the 61 FIB as an area of demand. So what we will be looking for going into this week is a pullback into this area rather than for a double top. We're looking for a double bottom for buy continuation. And once again, if CHFJPY is buying, then we know EURGBP buy or JPY buy, USD JPY, etc. So we'll actually do a video to explain why some JPYs then buy and some actually just fluctuate. It has to do with obviously the other base currency as well. But that is what we are looking for CHFJPY going into this week.
Okay, let's get into the wheel for the second time. Let's see which second pair we're going to be analyzing. It's usually time-based, so most of the times we do end up making two pairs. Second pair is going to be EURGBP. So EURGBP, pretty simple. I don't actually trade EURGBP. I use it for correlation purposes. As the euro is a free-flowing pair, the pound is obviously the controlling pair. So if EURGBP is going down, that means that there's going to be pound strength coming through, and then obviously opposite side as well. So that's what I use EURGBP for. If I know it's going to go to the top side, then I know I'm going to be shorting the pound pair. So let's get into the charts and let's see what will be happening for pound pairs this week.
Okay, then EURGBP. So once again, I don't trade EURGBP like I explained before. So I actually shared this buy position on my LinkedIn as well, but it was only a pullback trade. Okay, for now we can see, looking at trends, let's take everything out. What we can see is a lower, a high low, but price then went and created a lower low. So on the daily, we create a higher high, but also a lower low. So what that is called, it's called indecision. Indecision within the market. The bears and the bulls are fighting out to obviously determine where price will be going long term. So now we have formed this lower high level over here. So as long as price stays below this spike over here, we are in a selling trend. So what we are looking for next week is, for now, we can see there's a big bullish engulfing candle. So we're not going to sell. That's also the thing, is you can keep taking the trend down and down and down, but you need to get to a point where you still understand, okay, well, for now we're bullish. Price is still pushing up. Okay, well, we're bearish, we're selling, but there's a lot of indication that price is going to top side. So usually what will happen now is price will dip a little bit lower and then hopefully creates a higher low, have a shift of momentum, and then obviously keep buying. Or option number B will be, which is most likely the better trade, will be for a sell continuation. So now the only reason we're not selling is once again what's happening on the lower time frames as well. We can see there's a high low forming. So on the smaller time frames, we are trending to the top side. So what we are looking for going into Monday is one of two things. Okay, we have a liquidity point over there, and we have what's called a liquidity point over there. So if Monday comes and price closes below that area, we'll have a small pullback, another drop off to the downside. Okay. They always say trading is 90% waiting, 10% trading. And the reason for that is you need to understand that the banks are busy fighting out where this position will be going. We need to wait for the banks to clear it out. And whichever bank wins, the buyers or the sellers, is the one that we want to go with. So we can also then see maybe a break to the top side, and then we'll have a dip into that level. Then we have a higher high, wait for the higher low, and then from the higher low, we will be executing another buy to the top side, and obviously start with our buying trend to the top side. And once again, if we are breaking to the top side and we know we're going to start buying, that will indicate pound weakness as the euro is free flowing. That obviously pushes us to selling GU, GA, GJ, etc., with obviously the correlating pairs hand in hand.
Once again, thank you for watching and thank you for supporting. I hope to see you guys on the next one.